Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Entrepreneur's Kitchen. Welcome to another week of Entrepreneur's Kitchen. This is Monday evening, and your host, Seda Röder, is speaking. I'm really happy to be starting this week with an inspirational talk and conversation on leadership with Edith Rian. Please say hi to Edith. Hey.
Hi, Seda. Hi, everyone.
So lovely to have you here, Edith. I want to introduce you briefly to the people watching us tonight. So Edith is a scientist. She has a degree on molecular biology. Don't even ask me what that means, but it's difficult. But then later she decided to, spice up her career with leadership questions. And she has been working with Fortune 500 companies, helping leaders to become even more effective, more inspirational. And she's obsessed with this question around why are some people more successful than the others and what are they doing differently? And Edith is from Norway, so she thinks that she has the recipe for that. Before we talk about your recipe around leadership and how Nordics are doing it differently than, let's say, for instance, Germans, I want to know about your recipe for tonight's Entrepreneur's Kitchen, Edith.
Well, Seda, ask me how much time I spent on that. I spent half this weekend to think about what kind of peculiar recipes to come up with. And I'm afraid I don't have a cow in my freezer. Who had a cow in the freezer? So one of your participants had a cow in the freezer.
Well, it was Johannes Grönsfurt.
That was Johannes. Wow. That was inspirational too. I did not reach to that level. I'm basically going to make a super easy omelette with spinach. I've got my 3 ingredients. I've got my eggs.
Good.
I got my cream, the sahne. I got my spinach. And then I'm cheating with a little bit of butter and your.
Yeah, we don't count the salt, pepper, oil. They're fine, and sugar. Yeah, they're okay.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah, awesome. Well, actually, since you're from Norway, I was like, what do I do? What do I do? And then I thought, I have to do something with salmon. Yeah, so always, whenever I have people in the show, I try to kind of come up with something that has a connection to them. Similarly, it's going to be an egg, and I'm using some mayonnaise to make an egg salmon salad. How about that?
Wonderful. Yeah, I'm very curious about how we're going to talk and cook at the same time. And well, maybe a disaster.
My job is really easy here. I'm going to be cooking, boiling the egg until hard, and then just chop it, put salmon, and do some dressing with the mayonnaise, and then done. But it's really interesting because I realized that lots of people cook easy things.
Wonderful. But I've experienced that during these Corona times, I become more and more I cook more and more complex stuff in the kitchen. It's lovely, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I've surprised myself lately. Well, damn, this is good. That's what I'm telling myself.
Actually, tell me, are you into that molecular kitchen cuisine type of thing because of your background? No.
No, but it's interesting that you're asking, because I think because I have this background, it shapes the way we think, or it has shaped the way that I think about things. Yeah. So when I'm in the kitchen working, I think subconsciously just think chemistry, and I couple the chemistry to what it is that I'm doing. It's not that I'm really analyzing it, but it's just in the way I'm thinking. Yeah, so I think, okay, yes. I think that's the way I visualize things. I know this is nerdy and weird, but that's the way it works.
Well, but this is the good thing about you. I mean, you're a nerd but at the same time, a very interesting person. So let's talk about it. But before that, I want to mention to people that we have Slido. If you want to ask a question about leadership, around Nordic leadership particularly, please tune in to our Entrepreneur's Kitchen on Slido. So Slido, 70910 is our event code, and you can ask Edith all sorts of questions. Well, Edith, let's talk about, you know, why did you leave corporate life?
Oh, that was a deep question. You know what? I think it just must have been a dream that I always had.
I'm here.
Definitely, yes. I mean, you got me thinking on why on earth did I leave corporate life? Basically, because I think to be able to do what I really wanted to do, I realized I had to do it. It wasn't easy. It was, to be frank with you, a bit scary. You know, you know what you do, you know what you have, and you don't know what's on the other side is going to bring you. But I needed to explore it. You know, I think also this is the scientist in me. I need to know what is on the other side. If there is something on the other side, I need to explore it. I need to question it. I need to be, I'm just curious.
And I mean, how do you sense that need? What were the signs?
It is, yes. I think, you know, it's something I would like to discuss later also. It has to do, once you know yourself, you know when do you get energy, from what do you get energy, and what drains your energy. And I sensed that my energy was being drained, and I needed to figure out why, and I needed to find out where my energy was. And so I know for myself, one of my values, strongest values, is this lifelong learner. And I need to be in a situation where I can explore, and when I can learn, and where I can sort of also be in a sort of risky situations every now and then. And I needed to fulfill that. I needed to sort of fill my energy source. So, and knowing that I had this dream, then really wanted to work with leadership as a topic, and also to work with how do we work well together? How can we create teams that releases the potential in people, so that one and one becomes not only 2 but 3 and 4 and 5, and who knows what it can become once you build good teams.
And you scientists, I mean, people with the scientific mindset, they know actually how important collaboration is. What happens that we become such individualistic thinking individuals? Oh, that was a weird sentence, but you got what
I think part of it is personality, and part of it is, of course, upbringing. So it's the nature-nurture kind of thing. What is it that your upbringing sort of values? What is worthwhile doing when you grow up? And how are your reward centers? I mean, how is your brain rewarded when you grow up? So, but also, you know, working together can be quite difficult. Particularly if you have a very strong opinion and strong mind about things. So solving this riddle on how to work well together, it isn't always easy. And I think that was one of the first questions that I bumped into when I started to work as a group leader in science myself. Why is it that some people work so well together and bring such wonderful results? Is it just because of one person, or is it just because of the team? What are the factors that bring this out together? Or is it just this one brilliant mind, or what is it? And why is it that some people actually struggle so much? Even though you have brilliant minds, you bump into lots of, frustrations, and you can't move forward and so on.
Why is it? Tell me.
Well, of course, that's it. As a scientist, there isn't only one answer. But one of the answers that I found is that when you work with people, when you lead a team, it is about the people, You need to get to know the people. And it's not only about the tasks. So I mean, so if you think about leadership and you think about it as a sort of three-dimensional sphere, the one direction you need to lead is, of course, the tasks. You know, you have to focus on, okay, do we get to deliver what we deliver and what we need to deliver? And the other direction, this is the y-axis, this is the x-axis, it's people, the relationships. You know, how can I support and bring up the best in my people? And then the third direction is the vision, the change, the future. And you need to be handling all of this. But if you only focus on your tasks, because we're so interested in those tasks, you know, I mean, being engineers, being STEM people, I mean, many people, we're very interested in the topics. We forget to focus sometimes, quite often, on the people that are actually our most important resource. And I think it's a lot of the answers is that sort of leadership for me is about bringing results from the people that you have.
Edith, when we're in similar domains, and what I realized when I was working and when I'm working with leaders is that all of them are aware of all these points you're talking about.
Yeah.
Most leaders, especially when they achieve these top positions, they're very much interested in their people. They're very much interested in also these small talks. They're very much interested, and they are aware of the importance of execution and of the people. But at the end of the day, you still see this kind of struggle within the people, although the leadership is actually really concerned. How do you explain that?
But first of all, it is difficult. It is really, really difficult. Sometimes you meet people that you go well along with, and sometimes you meet people that you don't understand, you don't go so well along with. And I think that this is one very important aspect also. You need to understand the differences. And you need to understand that what brings out energy in this person may be completely different from what brings out energy in me. So I need to understand. It does. And it also means to have a language to explain these things. So once you have, let's say you have a person, I mean, the simplest thing, extroverts, introverts can explain it, okay? I'm a super extrovert. I know that I get energy from doing what we're doing now, interacting with people. So, I mean, basically I'm scratching on the walls of this house now to get out and do something. Whereas an introverted person, but these days are a gift, because they gain so much energy, they can really be in their own sphere, they can really sort of bring out all the stuff that they otherwise is taken from them. So it's about what gives you energy and what drains your energy. And I think that's important to understand, sort of on the simplest level, understand with your people what brings you energy, what drains your energy, and also what brings me energy and what drains my energy. Because I mean, it's not easy. It's quite a demanding task. You've got to be up for it, and you need to be a keen observer of the people around you and also yourself.
Yeah, which means, again, spending lots of time and being an extremely reflected person, right? So let's go back to the topic of collaboration, because I know that one of the points you claim around what makes Nordic leadership so special is their keen focus on how people collaborate, how people work together. So first of all, what is Nordic leadership?
Right. It is not the answer to everything, Seda. I'm sorry. But can I start with a story?
Well, of course, yeah, please.
So, when I left Norway 8 years ago, came here to Germany, and the Germans asked me, why, Norwegian and Germany, why on earth did you leave Norway? I said, okay, well, we just wanted a little adventure in Germany. And this adventure in Germany? From Norway to Germany? Why not? And this, of course, sort of, I think it's interesting because it says something about you actually have to get out of where you are and then look back to see what it is. Getting the outside in perspective, so to say. And so then, after having worked in Norway as a scientist in the biotech industry, also having worked here in Germany in the biotech industry, having studied leadership and coaching and becoming a consultant, I was super curious. I mean, my inquiring mind was sort of studying these issues. And what I also saw, of course, was that the Nordics were referred to in many situations. You know, with pride, I say pride or whatever it is, but rankings, you feel like lots of global rankings, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
So from wealth, of course.
The richest, the most happy, the best.
The prettiest, you know, that's
exactly.
what it talks word. Right. And you know, and question, where does it come from? Is it just a culture? Is it the politics? Or what is it? And particularly when it's not only what we're doing, but it's also how you feel, the emotional part, you know, the happiness, the trust level is super high. I mean, really high trust countries. And then sort of figuring out, okay, what is this? What makes the Nordics stand out in this way? And what can potentially learn from it? Okay, what is there a perspective here that is interesting, perhaps to other parts of the world? Of course, what you need to know, of course, is that the Nordics, we're high-cost countries. Okay, you know, I mean, Germans going to Norway, they bring their own beer. I mean, it's so expensive. And I totally understand it's horrendously expensive. And then, but at the same time, we're small, open to globally oriented market economies, need to compete. And we managed to compete on the global market. And at the same time, if you look at the history, sort of populations were very remote, scattered. Basically, you'd have to operate with what you had. The resources were there, and you would have to make the best out of them. And this has sort of become the nature of things, I think. And then, of course, the development in the 20th century, and through this has come a culture that lays the foundation for what is Nordic leadership. And you can ask, what is the chicken? What is the egg? I mean, it's complex. And talking, should I cook or should I talk now, Seda?
Well, both, you know.
I'm talking. Let me talk. Let me talk. So figuring out, okay. And then there was several books on the topic, sort of Nordic leadership, that I read with huge interest. What on earth? Why? I mean, do they find this special? And so from this, I was able to boil it down. And I think that is, as I said, it is complex. It isn't easy, but there are a few factors that you can point to that might be an interesting perspective. And you look at it from a sort of a European, sort of further south in Europe. And one is the contrast, which I like to call it the contrast between the decisive leadership and the participative leadership. Those two. I mean, with decisive leadership, I mean sort of the authority making decisions, a strong, clear role model, the expert, you know? With participative leadership, we have this more involving, engaging, more coaching type of leadership, where the leader doesn't have to be the expert, but the role model has to be of a different sort, so to say. Of course, you have to be competent, but the role model have to be of a different sort. And
you don't have to be like authoritative, right? You don't have to be
actually quite the opposite, because if you try the authoritative style, you would be surprised. What is going on here? People, so it's a factor called autonomy. And particularly we score high, and particularly Danes are highest in the world on autonomy of people. Basically, people expect to be given freedom within frame. You get a direction, you get a sort of frame. This is the freedom to operate within. And then you get responsibility for the whole sort of task. You're able to make decisions, make your own judgments, and use your competency. I mean, people are competent, people are highly educated also, which is a prerequisite, of course. And then you, and that is tapped, and that's sort of an important part of it. So it's an interplay between the participative leadership, that's the way I see it, and the autonomy.
And you also mentioned an extremely important aspect around trust, of course, because all of this does not make any sense if you just leave, lots of freedom and operate with vague frameworks. It doesn't work unless there is a high trust environment. How do you think that, when we, for instance, look now into another Nordic country, Sweden, around how they have been, managing the coronavirus issue, you see that people have a huge trust, for the leadership, for the lawmaking, for the execution. So how do you explain, where does this trust come from?
Yeah, where it comes from. It's a good question. I don't think I can answer it, except that we've always been blue-eyed in the Nordics, and that is more sort of not only, I have brown eyes, practical term, but we are naively trustful. It is a combination of having your looking back at, I see you. Looking back at sort of history, you own your own property. You don't belong to somebody, for instance. You can be responsible for yourself, and then you can now think. Yes, there we are.
Sorry. Yeah, I was cooling down the egg, so it's boiled now.
And then, of course, how the politics developed in the 20th century. Okay, you have something called the three-party collaboration between different parts in society, and so what you see, the countries that would be now called high trust countries. This huge. I'm going to sort of start to make the omelet. There's a huge amount of trust within society between people and authorities, from the authorities to the people. You can often see this by the willingness of people to pay their taxes.
Really?
Exactly. And then, believing that they are, we are society, and the authorities and the society is there for you, between people in the society and also within organizations. And I think that is a foundation that all of this is grows from, because as you say, without trust, you can't do anything. And I think that, the alternative would then be to command people, if they don't trust you. And that, that don't work at all. The people that then they would really look at you as a weirdo. But trust is complex, Seda. We talked about this before, and it takes time to build. And it's also sometimes often easy to break down. Is it
in the Nordic countries? Is it something that is taken as a given? Is it something that comes, from one generation to the next? It's like you're just born into this trust environment, and you grow up just trusting.
Yes, definitely. I think trust is the default mode of the Nordics. Yeah, there are other high trust countries in Europe as well. Switzerland, of course, Luxembourg score highly. Well, how's about Austria? Do you know anything about that?
Oh, I don't know exactly how they're doing on the trust index, but I know how they're doing on the corruption index, which is not necessarily the highest. They could definitely do better.
But you remember we've talked about this before, and trust. There's a lot of research on trust.
Yeah.
So if I was to say to you, or if I was to consider you, Seda, do I consider you a trustworthy person or not? Okay.
Yeah.
Then I would subconsciously consider 3 different factors. One is I would consider you, and I would then ask myself, And do I consider you a competent person?
Mm-hmm.
And then secondly, I would ask myself, do I consider you an honest, reliable person? Do you have
Mm-hmm.
sort of integrity?
Mm-hmm.
And thirdly, do I experience that you are benevolent? Do you want what is best for me?
Mm-hmm.
And these three components,
Mm-hmm.
sort of, I will then subconsciously use to consider your trustworthiness.
Yeah, let's challenge that a little bit. Do I have to be really fulfilling all those aspects for us to be able to work together fruitfully? Because those aspects, those qualities also apply to families, you know, having, you know, each other's best interest. And work environment, let's be honest about this, is a competitive environment. So how can we bring these two together, or three, four?
Competitiveness.
Yes, so competition, but still living in some sort of trust relationship without having to be like a servant leader type of person, because I know some people challenge that as well.
Well, let me use some sports analogies.
Excellent.
There are some, the Norwegian skiing, the women's cross-country skiing team. Mm-hmm. And yeah, they're a good example. So what we learned about them, they work together as a team, they live together as a team, they travel together as a team. They are a team when they're not competing. But in the 3-4 hours that they're competing, they compete fiercely against each other. Mm-hmm. When they're not competing, they go back to being the team that support each other, trust. So that trust foundation isn't broken during those 3-4 hours of competition. And you know, another analogy that I find really fascinating is this wonderful marathon runner, Eliud Kipchoge. Mm-hmm. He says that 100% of me is nothing compared to 10% of the team. So even he, being a sort of an individual that is competing against other individuals in an individualistic sport, says that without the team, I would not have been what I am today. And that means there has to be a lot of trust even in high competitive situations. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, with all of these things have to go together. I mean, trust cannot stand alone. If you have a system that always only reward the individual performance and never reward the team performance, that would sort of counteract this as well.
That is probably the key. So also, you know, looking at the systems of reward and what kind of behavior is being actually encouraged, even subconsciously.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you think about then about in-house competitions of companies? You know, idea competitions, you know, making teams fight each other, and you know, these entrepreneurship activities and things like that.
Right. Depends on how it is rewarded. Mm-hmm. And I also think it's a culture thing. You have to see it in the context of the culture. It's a personality thing. You have to see it in the context of the personalities. But I mean, at the end of the day, you will have to see, does my reward system actually support what it is that I want to bring about? Mm-hmm. And you have to look at that from a larger perspective, I think.
Yeah, I mean, mostly, you know, people who are involved in these entrepreneurship activities around, you know, starting in a startup within a corporate company, etc. They would usually get some time off to work on a certain project. And recently I've heard something that blew my mind almost, that one of the larger companies I don't want to mention the name, they do entrepreneurship activities. They give people time and money to try out their startup ideas that's going to pay into the, exploring new business models of a company. But if the teams fail after, let's say, the end of 1 year, they get their contracts revisited, which is insane. So it's like, if you fail, we might just fire you. There is no guarantee.
I'm going to show you something. I'm in that context. I'm reading this book right now.
Yeah. Cool.
A fearless organization. Now, depending on if there is a punishment for failure, that does not necessarily support the sensation of psychological safety, which is quite important. Doesn't mean that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have competition, but you need to know that there is a room for failure. There's a tolerance for acting out and trying out the things that you really, the weird things, the wild things. You need to know that there is room to take this risk, otherwise you won't do it.
Absolutely. By the way, let me just mention once again that people can ask questions. So it's 70910 on Slido. If you want to ask any questions, please go ahead and ask us. Let me see, 70910. Yes. And by the way, I'm chopping my salmon and the eggs, and I'm just going to show it to you at the end because doesn't look very nice.
My omelette looks horrible. I'm multitasking. There is no such thing as multitasking. So I'm trying to.
I always say this at the Entrepreneur's Kitchen. It's a good cooking show because you only get to eat your own food.
Well, let's say there's room for failure. This is a high trust kitchen, so there's room for failure.
Excellent. Well, and tell me about what was in the recent, couple of weeks in the Corona crisis, something where you thought, wow, this is a very interesting, change of mindsets, and probably there is no return back after this point. Have you had an encounter where it really made you very happy around leadership?
Yeah, I'm not so sure about the turning back, but one of the things that I picked up the other day was somebody said, I experience that people are kinder to each other. And I asked, okay, why do you think this is? Well, I think people feel that there's less stress. And when there's less stress, they're able to get out of their own bubble, sphere and fear or whatever, and focus on other people. So people are kinder to each other. And that made me very happy. And back to what we talked about, energy. I mean, when you're kinder, it means you're paying more attention to other people. You also are able to pay attention to what gives the people energy. And you can contribute to their well-being. And this is something, you don't have to be a leader to that. Everybody's leader in their own sort of position and state. And you can contribute to how other people feel. So I think that was a very good learning.
That's really nice. Yes, sometimes when I think about all of this, it goes back and forth. I have moments of euphoria, I'm like, wow, there's never going back. This is the great reset. And then there are moments of, oh my God, people they can't wait to go back to their old normal. And, then you hear from different governments that they're going to be putting a lot of money to keep that system alive that actually is not necessarily very healthy. It's very difficult, but that's my personal view. So, but I want to know about actually what you think are the qualities that make a great leader. When we think about also the difference between a leader and, let's say, a manager.
All right. How much time do you have?
Well,
No.
try to keep it short.
No, you're right. Qualities of good leader. You know what? It's so easy, I think, to put people in a box and say this is a good leader, this is not a good leader, and this is a good manager, this is not a good manager. I know. I often try to ask people, have you ever experienced having a manager and a leader that has made you perform very well? That has made you feel happy and made you feel comfortable to stretch and do something extraordinary. And then to ask, okay, if so, what was it about this person that made it so different, so special for you? And often the answer is, I experienced that this person not only saw what I could do, this person saw the potential in me, that I could do something even more than I do today, that I could become something that I'm not today. And, you know, there's a deep desire in us humans to actually, not only do we want to belong, but we really, really want to achieve. We really, really want to make something out of what we have been given by birth. And God knows we have been given a lot. I mean, look at Europe these days. I mean, even though we have a corona crisis, I mean, we have so much. Think about what we could create. And if we have people that can see that potential in us without knowing what the potential is, but that there is a potential there, I think that creates a good leader. And of course, people say, okay, also the leader that gives me the good structures. I need, these are the sort of the role, this is the role clarity is a very important aspect, for instance. People that sort of say, this is the vision that gives me hopes and dreams. But not necessarily people that come and explain me what to do, because that I can figure out myself.
And yeah, well, I think also when you encounter people who just come and tell you what to do, you start naming them the control freaks.
And ask. Well, anyway, personally, I would figure out a way to do exactly the opposite. I mean, I would first I would rebel, and then I do the opposite. Yeah.
That's funny.
No, but I mean, people are different. People are different. Yeah.
You won't believe this, but I'm done. Look at this.
Oh, but that looks pretty with mayonnaise.
I know. I made it look really pretty for you, Edith. Usually my food doesn't look this pretty.
my poor omelette is really.
Awesome. Well, okay, actually, there is a question on Slido for you. It says, for the leaders you work with, where does the fear come from?
The first part of the question was?
For the leaders you work with. I mean, you don't have to name any, but where does their fear come from?
Yeah, I haven't asked them. But I would basically go back and say, where do you think it comes from? I think, I mean, fear is actually naturally in us. You know, we will fear one thing or the other. There's no such thing as a fearless person. But I mean, fear for not performing, of course. Fear for being blamed. Fear for, and a lot of it is fear for fear itself. Wasn't that, who said that? It was in Harry Potter. Yeah. Fearing the fear itself.
Yeah.
You can fear so many things. You know, fear is, the way I see it, it's an emotional pain. And we are afraid of that pain because it reminds us of something probably that we have experienced once in our lifetime. And it may or may not be related at all, but that's so painful. We just don't want to step into that again.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, I agree. I remember, I don't know who said this, but someone was talking about courage, and I remember maybe I put it together myself. I don't think that it's actually a quote, but it was about courage, and it said, everybody has a fear, but courage means acting according to your values in spite of your fear.
Absolutely.
So forcing yourself out of your so-called comfort zone and having the fear, feeling the fear, but still acting although you have the fear, and not running away from your fear, which is really difficult.
It is. It's our autopilot to run away from the fear. And but this again goes to self-observation. And Daniel Kahneman, he and Tversky, they did all these studies on human behavior, and the book Thinking Fast and Slow. They named these two systems in the brain. It's system 1 and it's system 2. Where system 1 is the autopilot, which doesn't take any energy at all, and we're often not conscious about what we actually do and behave and think and say. And of course, fear is the innate. It's not the cognitive part of our brain. It is the sort of the old part of the brain, so firing. And also neurologists say that what fire together, wire together. So if these fear signals are released in a situation that is similar to something that you experience in work, whether or not it's going to be you're not good enough, or you have to be perfect, or all these kind of things, you connect to those fear firing neurons, which you cannot control. They will be there, they will always be there. But now I'm talking like a neurobiologist, which I'm not at all. So this is me just crutching about. Anyway, I think it's a good theory. Let's say it's a good theory. But first of all, what we need to do is to become aware of it. Actually, first become aware of it. And that brings us to system 2 in the brain. The cognitive part that actively looks at what is going on here. And that takes energy. And we need to accept that it takes energy. And I think maybe I'm talking.
Now, I just want to add to that. And I think one of the most important issues that probably takes the most energy and the convincement, because I think acting upon our decisions is just a necessary outcome of our own emotional convincement and beliefs. Because if you are really convinced, if you believe that it's the thing you have to do, you just act no matter what. And it's also true for myself. I remember, thinking back in my career and how it transformed during the last 10 years, especially. One question that always came to my mind, and I ask it also, when I talk to people, what would you do if you were not afraid?
Oh my, it's such a beautiful question.
But that's a very painful question, because it also means that you have to know, I think that's the second thing, what really moves you, what really is your core, your core yearning, what you want to become. What is it that you want to become? And what would you do to reach it if you were not afraid? And I think that's very, very powerful. I remember having the magician, for instance, on the show, and he was going all in the same direction. And it's simple, beautiful, but really powerful, like the learnings you were saying. I want to ask one last question that's going to be kind of funny. So are scientists actually good leaders? Are they, in your opinion, like in this corona crisis, should they be the people in charge to decide about the future of our societies?
Well, if a scientist, the bugs here in the kitchen. If a scientist,
we don't see.
I mean, it's then about what orientation of science of leadership do we need? Do we need the task orientation? Do we need the people orientation, or do we need the change, direction, vision orientation? Now, depending on what is most urgent. In a crisis, we need to handle the crisis, and we need to set the directions. And scientists that we have seen today, they have been excellent, like the Swedish head of national health services, I think it is. He, by being an expert and trusting that he believes what is right, although it's not perfect. He's never said that this is perfect. He said, but this is what we really truly believe on, based on the information that we have available now as of today. And he doesn't yield from that. And because then they have set up their system so that the politicians actually trust him already. They said, okay, you make the right scientific decision here and we follow you and support you. Now, and in that aspect, he's been a great leader. I think people follow him and they trust him. But in general, say scientists are like people in general. You know, some are born with good leadership talents, and most of us aren't. But it can be trained and it can be learned. And it is, you need to know that you are learning, you are leading people. People is what you lead.
Yeah, well, yes. And not only, you know, some microbes.
Sometimes, yeah. Right, exactly. Yeah, you do. I mean, no man is an island, so you need people around you.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I remember seeing lots of, you know, Nobel laureates, although they work in teams, they were like, oh, leave me alone. I want to do it all by myself.
Yeah, you know, it is interesting because, I mean, being a scientist is hugely demanding and it attracts a certain personality and certain people and they can do great things, but it isn't always, collaboration isn't always their default, so to say. Some people do well, some people don't.
Yeah, I think it's because we as a society support this ideal around, this romantic ideal around, you know, single geniuses who work in isolation.
Yeah. I totally agree. I totally agree.
I mean, also in leadership, look at all these, you know, top leaders who also suffer themselves because everybody look up to them and they have to know everything. They're like gods in their organization.
Right.
And
I think that's slightly different than in the Nordics. I mean, we tend to appreciate the power of the team. Power. I mean, leaders come from the outside into the Nordics and they're super frustrated because you have to have this very long discussions. There has to be a consensus. But that's how you get buy-in. That's how people get involved. People say, I'm bloody well competent, so this person bloody well listen to me. And of course, people expect to be involved. And if they're not involved, they don't buy into it. So a lot of people can become very frustrated when they try to lead Norwegian or Nordic teams.
Yeah, it still sounds like very much a you know, developed country mindset, right? Highly developed country mindset. Because when you look into the developing countries, I mean, I'm Turkish myself, so there you see this yearning around one single leader or a leadership team who is going to take all the decisions, and you have no responsibility, which is at the end of the day what a lot of people want to do. You know, just put your destiny into the hands of these godlike figures who are going to lead you to a better and brighter future. Well,
but Seda, when you think about that, and just one question to you, when you think about that, you're very much into creativity. That's your third area. Yeah. So what do you think has the highest likelihood to bring out creativity in an organization? Is it the participative or is it the decisive leadership style?
Oh, it's we don't have another hour to talk about this. You know, I think you really have to read the organization and the little groups that are working together, because it's even within one organization, like you have said, in every single corner, it's different. You have to consider the usual working types. You know, how are people collaborating in the smallest to the largest, and the more levels you change, the more varieties, and there is never black or white, so it always changes. And I think the spice is around finding what really motivates different teams in different ways, and just give them more of that to thrive on. It's building upon strengths, like just what you said. But yes, I mean, some people thrive when you have more constraints, more corsets, and others thrive when they have lots of resources and lots of possibilities.
Absolutely.
So it's very, very different for everyone, which brings us back to the question around time. So as a leader, how much time are you allowed to spend in understanding these constructions around your company and your people, which is a very scarce resource, which is also, showing me that our time is almost up. And every entrepreneur's kitchen ends on a jokey note. Yes, I know. Well, because we want to show that entrepreneurs can also be funny. We can be fun. So you don't look like you're enjoying this.
I am highly enjoying it, but I don't think the audience will enjoy it. But that's okay. That's okay. It's a risk I will take. I'm putting myself out there vulnerable and everything. It's about trust, isn't it?
Exactly, and going out of your comfort zone. So, Edith, tell me your joke. The joke you would tell if you were not afraid.
Oh, that's such a wonderful quote. I'm not afraid. Here I jump in the call. Ein Sprung ins kalte Wasser, sagt man auf Deutsch. Anyway, so I mean, we Norwegians, we truly love the Swedes. They are cute and adorable, but sometimes they have this peculiar behavior, sort of hard to understand. So, Seda, do you know, why is it that we find Swedes walking in the middle of the road?
Norwegians finding Swedes in the middle of the road.
They're walking in the middle of the road.
I have no idea.
Because they are afraid of the wild flowers.
I don't even know whether I get this joke. I'm not.
Why? Oh, no, don't let me explain. You have to contemplate. Swedes walking in the middle of the road, they're afraid of the wild flowers. Jesus. Sorry. You see, there is a reason I never became a stand-up comedian.
Yeah, well, I love those jokes that I don't understand, because then I get to think about them the whole night.
Now that's funny.
Well, I my jokes are really shallow, and so
do you have a joke for me as well?
I do, actually. Why did the bird fly into the library?
Well, I have no clue, of course.
Because he was looking for bookworms.
Oh.
I know.
Oh. So, I mean, telling jokes is a art in itself.
I know. Well, thank you. Yeah. Awesome. So you're the first guest to just trash my jokes. Well,
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to trash it.
I take it. I don't take it personally, since I'm telling one joke every night. It's okay not to be.
You're good at it.
Exactly.
I'll think about it.
Not to be good at it. Exactly. Well, Edith. Hilarious. Thank you so much. Where's your food? I want to see your food.
Oh, my food. Anyway, you can't be good at everything in life, but it is a very flat omelette.
Oh, that looks really good. Well done.
Yeah, it does, awesome. Actually. I'm proud of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's take an Instagram picture of our food and then post it and say the food was better than the joke.
What do I do? Right. Okay. Do I do the same?
Yes. I'm telling you the tagline. It's the food was better than the jokes. Awesome. Well, Edith, thank you so much. You can do it after we finish.
I will. So I'm not an Instagrammer. Oh, okay, good.
Stay in the line. I want to thank you so much for joining me tonight. And this was really a delightful conversation with you again, and looking forward to more. And I want to thank all the people out there who have listened to the Entrepreneur's Kitchen tonight, for tuning in, for joining us. And tomorrow there will be another episode with David Katz, who is the CEO of the Plastic Bank, which is an amazing social business. You have to have heard about it. I'm truly looking forward to tomorrow's night as well. And I want to thank you all for joining me tonight, and take care and stay safe. Bye-bye.
Bye.